So through all the craziness that's going on, there's these little light beams that are showing up. People in our congregation have taken people in. We have fed people. We have showered people. So just know that no matter what this feels like or seems like, there is a greater peace to our compassion, our humanity that exists in the midst of all this craziness. You did see possibly in our announcements, our Goddess workshop, due to the hurricane, has moved to next Saturday. We are going to be here in the sanctuary and also out in the foyer. The foyer will be in the afternoon, so for any of you who want to come charging in with your brilliant light selves, maybe wait till 3 o'clock. Let us have a chance to do some of the inspirational work that we are being called to do to uplift this community. And next week, 2 friends of mine from New York City, do y'all remember that Pace Picani commercial? New York City. They are now making their way to us through Savannah and other areas. I think they're in Tampa this morning. They're going to be with us, and specifically, David Friedman is a Broadway producer, songwriter, lyricist, and then Reverend Sean Moniger, I know him fairly well. It's going to be a dynamic duo. You want to come for the service. You want to stay and have lunch, because our children are providing the lunch, and it's a fundraiser. And then you want to stay for the workshop. So if you have not treated yourself this year to anything special, this is your chance. This is your chance. So just want to put that on the radar. And please, when you're coming to an event, look at the time. We had Armand and Angelina here Friday night, and some people came at 6, and some people came at 7, and by 7 they were more than halfway through. So Christmas is coming. Christmas Eve is coming. If you want to be a part of it, watch the time. Watch the time so that you can enjoy all the magnificence. So we are still in the throes of our fall program, and if you haven't picked up the theme, it's connection. Connection. And I compared that to the wedding vows. I do solemnly swear. I do solemnly swear to be connected in this realm, in this room, in this community, in this world. And that's a big one. That's a big one. Connection from a spiritual perspective is about recognizing the innate oneness that binds all of us together. It's that feeling of a deeper bond that transcends our individual differences. I did our new member Saturday class, and we were having a chat, and we know that we all have different views on different things in life. And part of that, I thought, there's not one person that I know of in here, whether you believe the way I do or not, that if I were in distress and I called you to come help me, that you would sit back and say, nope, I don't believe her. I know you would come forward. I know the humanity within us, the compassion within us wants to be of service. It doesn't matter what everybody else says we are supposed to believe or think or even practice. I think down within each one of us, which I will call that God connection, that oneness energy, we want to be of service to each other. That we are more of who we are when we are in service to each other. When we come together with a shared spiritual purpose, we can uplift each other in profound and transformational ways. Do you think so? Yeah. I do too. I do too. So we have different traditions that we follow, and then we encourage ourselves, we invite ourselves to open our minds to a new understanding, to see something differently in our world. So in our readings this past week for our fall program, I chose 4 essential elements for connection. And I had to look a little deep. The first one is presence. Now, when we talk about the presence, we are talking about being able to sit with your friend, your comrade, someone you know, someone you don't know, and to hear them without your own agenda. In the business world, it was very appropriate for me to play the chessboard game. I had something I had to bring forward. I was probably selling something. I was mediating something. So I would come forward and I would think before the meeting, if I move here and you move here, what am I going to say? If you move here, what am I going to say? If we are present to one another, we are actively listening. We don't have an agenda. We're not saying, what am I going to say here or here or here? And how many of us, we know the answer. We want to play. Put me in, coach. I got it. And for that person undergoing a challenge, not just speaking women to men, but in general, when we need to work through something, do you need someone outside of you to fix you? Do you need someone outside of you when it's your time in this beautiful song, Go Within? You have all the tools you need. Before we began the fall program, Reverend Marilyn said, we are prepared. Now, you don't know if you're prepared until stuff happens. And then you reach way down to that resource, and I'll call that God essence, and we begin to hear, when we are silent, what our message is. And for some of us, it actually comes as words. And for some of us, it's a feeling. And then I had another minister challenge me and said, if you don't get a no, it's a yes. And I said, that's not clear enough for me. I need a real sign. And even when there's times that I get frustrated and I ask some questions about my journey and my path, and then someone in this congregation will leave me a little note on my desk, or somebody in this congregation will leave me hot pepper jelly. Someone in this congregation left me limoncello. I told y'all, Jack's my friend. What I'm suggesting is, when you're not sure you're on your way, instead of finding everything that's against you, begin to open your mind for everything that is for you. And when you're in the very presence of someone, have no agenda. Be still. Be still and know I am God. Be still and know that you are God. You are the ears of God. Now, we've been through some stuff, not one, not two, but 3 hurricanes in like 65 days. So I asked the small fall group this past week, what can I do as a minister to help people? And the answer came back, listen. Listen. Not a temporary fix. Allow people to go where they need to go. So I am extending the invitation. If you'd like a little one-on-one time, Mondays for me are best. But if you need someone just to hear you, I am present. For once, I'll be quiet. I am present. Our prayer chaplains are present. If you would like affirmative prayer. Also, listen for those who are members. It's a beautiful benefit. They will leave you a message, whether you answer the phone or not. Listen. Listen beyond the words. Feel the feelings of when someone is present with you. They're not there to fix you. They don't have your answers. But I watch often in my room as questions are being asked and silence follows. You know your answer. You just haven't heard it yet. My minister before in Atlanta would say, if you don't know right now, can I hold for you in the very presence of Spirit that answer is already here? I thought, I got to solve my own problems again. So unity. Taking responsibility for our actions. Being present to one another. Not having an agenda. And then, as I was thinking through this process, don't stare them down. Do you know what I mean? You got the best intention, you're listening, you're intent with them, you're holding the high good, and then all of a sudden it's like, have you ever done it with a cat? Can you do a stare down with a cat? They aren't going to look at you. So don't intimidate when you're in the full presence of someone. Just give them a loving glance. You are a gift, and you might be the actual safety net that they're looking for at that moment. And our second element is empathy. Now, I am a Brene Brown fan, so you're going to get some of her this morning. This is our place of creating a bridge to deeper understanding and connection through empathy. Imagine what someone is feeling at the moment that they are going into a deep place with you. Now, don't jump in their boat and sink with them. You can sit on the surface, but just imagine what emotions are coming up for them. And this is not your time to go through your own Rolodex and say, well, let me tell you about this. You think you got it bad. Well, let me tell you, because that's not what they're looking for, right? At that moment, they're looking to be supported. They're looking to have a voice. When we do workshops, I ask my groups, if someone comes in tears, if that vulnerability shows up, there are so many times that we are not allowed to feel our feelings, so do not touch them. That sounds really like anti-workshop-y. But the idea is where someone needs to go, let them go there. Let them feel it completely and don't shut them down. You're able to hand them a tissue, but don't touch them. Let them go so they can feel the entirety of what they're feeling. To honor someone who's taking you into that place and for you to be empathetic, how would it sound to you if someone said, I hear you? I maybe can't even imagine what you're going through, but I'm right here. How would that feel? Any of us who have abandonment issues, safety issues, we're not looking to be fixed, but how about, I hear you. I'm right here. Thank you for trusting me to share on such a depth, because I know this came deep down inside you. Brene Brown says this about compassion. Compassion is fueled by understanding and accepting that we're all made of strength and struggle. No one is immune to pain or suffering. Compassion is not a practice of better than, or I can fix you, or my hurt is bigger than your hurt, but it's a practice based in the beauty and pain of shared humanity. It is a practice based in the beauty and pain of shared humanity. She says compassion is the daily practice of recognizing and accepting our shared humanity so that we treat ourselves and others with loving kindness. Do y'all remember a couple weeks ago when I handed out the little frogs? What did I say they stood for? Fully rely on God. So I took a picture of mine in the dash of my car and I posted on Facebook. I'm like, where are my frogs? Y'all didn't post back. Wherever your little frog is, I invite you to take his little picture because we're all in this together. Take his little picture wherever he is and splash it on our Facebook page. Where are my frogs? Where is my fully relying on God that I am in and through this all the time? I said last week, commitment without action is fantasy. And the American Buddhist Nunpema Kodron says, compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. Take that in. Compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity. So we're not calling something that has not existed within us because that's usually our relatable field. Most of us have really felt sorrow. we have felt a deep grief. We have felt unwanted, unheard, unloved. And at some point, our thoughts have taken us right to that point. It even could be one of our lowest points. And Brene Brown was talking about her children. And she said, you know, as a parent, I want to fix everything. Most of us parents do. We want to shoulder your burden so you don't feel to the depths how hard that is. If we can take it on, we'll take it on. But in the reality of your spiritual path, you are the only one who can make this journey. She says, I went from always wanting to fix things and make them better to literally sitting in the dark with my kids before I fully understood that the action part of compassion wasn't making things better or fixing, but how I could show them to feel the discomfort. So most of us don't want to sit in the discomfort. Most of us would rather things be good and flowing and with ease all the time. And then we run into those places where it's now time to face your fear. So I thought of a childhood book. Does anyone remember Grover in Sesame Street? I'm going to ask Rob to put Grover up here in case you don't know who I mean. So there was a book called The Monster at the End of this book. And I would bring that out at night to read to my children. And Grover is in this book, and Grover says, I don't want you to turn the page because there's a monster at the end of this book. So what does your child do? Turn the page. And you get to the next page, and Grover says, now look, we only have so many pages left. And when you keep turning this page, we're going to find that monster. And I don't want to meet the monster. So please, don't turn the page. So what happens? We turn the page. You know, as soon as you tell anybody no, we're going to do it. So we get through this book, and it's a page before the very last page, and Grover has splashed himself over the whole page. He says, please, please, I'm asking for the very last time. When you turn this page, we're going to find the monster, and I'm afraid of monsters. Please, don't turn the page. We turn the page. The only one on the page is Grover. Grover says, well, that's not a monster. That's me. I'm the monster at the end of the book. And I thought, wow, how true is that for many of us? We make up things in our mindset. We create these mountains from molehills, and sometimes we don't turn the page because we keep imagining whatever this little situation is, that it's really this, and then families don't talk to each other for years. And people are pushed outside of friendships and circles. And the truth is, when we get down to the very final page, who's responsible? Us. We can build bridges or we can blow them up. And oftentimes, as uncomfortable as it can be, when we face our fears, when we have that uncomfortable conversation, there is a common ground of where we see, I'll call it the God, inside each one of us. There is no monster, there's a superstar. It's Grover, it's you. It's our heart space. It's the God within us that sees the humanity in the God within you. That's what we mean when we say we see the Christ. We see the very best even if you cannot see it. And from the depth of those eyes, have you ever, when you really truly look at someone, you get lost. You no longer see them, you go into their soul, and there the two parties meet. There the two parties see who they really, really are. So Brene Brown says, in this act of compassion and empathy, gently move towards that place of fear so that you can walk through it and walk through it together, not alone, not separate, not feeling outside of the world, but in truly engaging with that very person that you may have believed was the monster at the end of the book. I wrote down, so can we truly walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and fear no evil, for thou art with me. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We look for the gems that have served time immemorial to guide us. Empathy is the most powerful tool of compassion. Empathy strengthens relationship bonds. Brené Brown says, empathy is a tool of compassion when we can respond empathetically only if we are willing to be present to someone else's pain. If we're not willing to do so, then it's not real empathy. Again, don't get in the boat with them, but be that lifeline. Be that steady, assured dock so that you can be with them in their time. So she says, rather than walking in your shoes, I need to learn how to listen to the story that you tell me. What it's like to be in your shoes and believe you even when it does not match my experience. So the truth of that one, we are no longer looking through our Rolodex, our life experiences to try to relate to someone. We have no agenda. We have no fix-em tools with us. Instead, we are fully present with an empathetic ear to be beside the person that we are demonstrating that Christ love. On a collective conscious realm, Brené Brown says this, hurt is hurt. And every time we honor our own struggle and the struggles of others by responding with empathy and compassion, the healing that results affects all of us. And I say every time we do some inner healing, I believe we add it to the greater collective consciousness, for we're holding that intention of wholeness, oneness, unity. We're all in this together. So the third one is openness. Now that's not so hard. When you imagine open, give me a word. Door. Window. Heart. Life. Receptivity. Light. Light's a good one. Light's always a good one. And you only know the light because you also know the darkness. So when we are open to receive a new experience, a new way of understanding, you may or may not vibrate with it. But I said that is often what I think I am charged with as a minister, especially on a Sunday morning, is to bring a message, maybe one you've heard, maybe one you have not heard. It's just an open opportunity. And you get to decide what you take in. I was teasing in one of the groups. As I get older, I recognize what I do not know. And I am enthralled when I create our Sunday services. I love doing workshops and studying to the inner depths, even going back into the Old Testament and bringing up things I never realized or recognized before. And do you remember as teenagers, I was invincible. Were you? I knew everything. And I told my parents that. And now, as my teenagers are now in their mid-30s, we are all beginning to recognize that we may not know everything. So our fourth element is trust. For me, this is, of all the elements we've discussed, probably the most vulnerable one. Relationships are built and destroyed on trust. I watch, I observe, I stand a little bit on the outside. Can I trust you? If I can trust you, who are you in my life? What is our deeper relationship? Trust is the foundation upon which all the healthy relationships are built. We've talked about 4 essential elements in connection today: presence, empathy, openness, and the final one, which I think is the biggest, is trust. You entrust us to make sound, solid decisions for our community. In the survey, I'm trusting you to tell us the truth. Through prayer and intention, we can create a way where there's no way before us meaning we don't always see how things are going to turn out. But trust the process. Trust that we already have everything we need. We need to know how to apply it. So for the gifts, the blessing, hold your papers until the ushers come by. We say thank you for your generosity in spirit, your time, your talents, the intention you hold around this community as we go to the next level. And for this, we say thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.